me show you how I made this cool pair of overalls out of 2 of these thrifted jeans. These jeans were $7.99 each and the orange tag was 50% off, so I got these 2 for about $14, which I'd say is not bad at all considering how much I love these overalls.
So the other day I was on Pinterest and I came across the cutest overall shorts, and I just felt like I needed to make it ASAP. That's when it occurred to me that I could just go to my thrift store and I could get 2 pairs of vintage jeans and I could turn them into my perfect overall shorts before summer's over. So I just made sure they matched in color and in the pattern. I'm just gonna use these for straps and whatever I can't fully make out of the bottom ones. I also went to the fabric store and I got jean buttons, overall buckles, and some adjustable slide buckles for the straps. So I'm going to start by cutting these into shorts and cutting open this side seam about 5 inches.
I went and I marked how long I wanted my shorts to be and took into account hem allowance. Then I went and I cut those. Now these belt loops have to go, so I got rid of those. Then I cut side open right at that seam about 6 inches down, and I'm measuring on the other side 6 inches down, and I'm cutting that one open too.
Now that I think about it, I probably did not need to cut both sides because one side opening is good enough. So if you're doing this, you probably don't need to cut both sides. But I'm going to make the button placket now for the sides. So I'm going to do one off camera and then I'm going to do the other one on camera. How cute! I got kind of just back stitched all over the place down here. Let's do this side. But before we start on this side, put a very sharp needle that's meant for sewing through denim on your machine. The new and fresh one is ideal because this fabric is pretty thick, especially going over these side seams.
So I have this piece which I'm going to fold in half, and I'm going to sew just the curve, the top, and I have these 2 back pieces. I'm going to hem in this long edge. Now I'm just sewing across the top of this one and down that curved side that's open. I'm going to turn it right side out, and then I'm going to top stitch along that entire edge. I cut this piece in a lightweight fabric so that sewing through it would be easier. Then I'm just sewing in the edge about 1/4 inch on this piece. I'm going to repeat with the other one, and then I'm just going to fold over the top edge and sew that down also. Then I went and I just clipped this piece onto the front, right side's facing. I marked where that little rivet is to make sure I wouldn't sew over that. And then I just sandwiched this back piece right here between these 2 and pinned those in place as well. Now I'm going to sew all 3 of those onto the jeans. After I sewed this front lightweight fabric on, I turned it to the inside of my shorts and top stitched it in place. Once that was sewn on, I'm just cutting down bulk out of this seam. We don't need that excess bulk, it's just going to make it harder to sew. So I'm just folding these together, lining up the edges, and I'm going to sew along this edge. After I sewed along that edge, I just top stitched down here, and then I marked where I wanted my buttonholes to go.
I didn't even want to fuss with my button foot because I thought my machine would have a hard time going through this thick fabric. So I manually made my buttonholes by using the zigzag setting. I need to check again, and I'm going to put on the screen the stitch length and width I used to create these buttonholes.
Now I'm just cutting open my buttonholes. Usually I use a seam ripper, but this fabric was just too thick for that. And now I'm going to mark through the holes where I need my buttons to go. I'm just following the directions on the back of the packet the buttons came in. To apply these buttons to my placket, I'm just pushing that little screw part through the back, and then this piece goes on the front like this. And then I'm just going to hammer the buttons into place. To finish this button placket, I'm just going to tack this part down here.
So I thought I would just add the top portion of the overalls to the top of this waistband that's already on here, which would have worked. Now that I've looked at my pictures again and I really want my overalls to look like the overalls in the picture, I'm going to be removing the waistband, which means that I'm losing my top button that I worked so hard to put in. It's okay though, because my overalls are going to be super cute. And I'm also going to seam rip out just the zipper and this little back fly piece because it's unnecessary and it's extra bulk.
So I seam ripped out the zipper and the zipper placket, and while I was doing the waistband, I realized
maybe I don't have to take all of the waistband off. This is the bottom leg from the pants that was left over. I just cut open the side seam. But I'm just looking to see how this would look if I don't finish seam ripping. I think that I can pull it off. I just don't know if it's gonna look weird if the waistband is ending right here, but I could add a little pleat right here, right where the waistband will end, and that will probably make it look like it was meant to be designed that way and not like I turned a pair of pants into overalls. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
So I just cut those off, measuring about 2 inches from my pockets. Then I seam ripped out the top stitch so I can fold this inside. I'm folding the edge in about 1/4 inch, less than that. And I just pinned that in place, and I did the same thing on the other side. And I'm just going to sew these into place. Then I went and I sewed my zipper front fly closed.
I'm very happy I'm saving these buttons I put all my heart and effort into. I'm not quite sure yet how I'm going to work the front onto this little opening. So let's just get to it and figure it out as we go. My brain does everything the complicated way, and I feel like the way I'm about to do this is the complicated way.
So I marked the bottom of the pants that I cut in half, the length I wanted my front to be. And I went and I folded in the edges until this middle piece lined up with the center and the 2 edges fell in between the waistband. So you know how I cut the waistband? I measured this so that it was right in between those 2 cutoffs. And now I'm just pinning these folds in place. Now I'm going to sew along the folded edges. Then I went and I marked the overall width I wanted my overall top to be. Then I started cutting way too fast because this cut was not supposed to happen because I forgot to add hem allowance. But now I'm going to mark the hem allowance and then cut off the excess fabric. Now I'm just lining up the edges of the fold with those waistband ends. And I'm just going to sew that on in between those 2 waistband ends like this. And while I'm at the sewing machine, I'm just going to hem the 2 outer edges of this front piece with a double fold hem. To clean up this raw edge in the center, I went and I added bias tape to this part. And then I went and I just folded the rest of this towards the back of the waistband. For the raw edge of the rest of this part of the top, I just folded that under and pinned this to the waistband. And I'm just going to sew these in place here around the waistband, making sure to watch out for the rivets. And I'm going to sew down those 2 folds.
My machine had a little bit of a hard time sewing through these little bulky spots right here. So if you choose to do this, you can take off the whole waistband. It'll probably be easier for you to sew this part on.
And this is how that turned out.
How cute is it? I love it. And the seams lining up here is just beautiful.
I seam ripped off the pocket from this pair of jeans and I used that to be the front pocket on my overalls. I went and I sewed 2 lines for design down the center of my pocket, which didn't seem to give much of an effect, but you know, it's cute. But I just sewed this on, and off camera I sewed the second stitch as well. And now this is the other part of the bottom of the jeans, and I'm just going to trace out the shape I want in the back. Now I'm cutting that out, taking into consideration hem allowance. And now I'm just going to fold in those edges. For the top and 2 diagonal edges or angled edges, I just folded them in once. Then I went and did a double fold on each side. And last I went to the bottom and I folded it the wrong way and I sewed that in place. Now I'm going to just pin this back piece to the back waistband. I'm going to sew that in place, but I'm also going to sew the shoulder strap and this piece here, which is just a little stabilizer for the back. It's the same length as the top of my back. I just traced that out and I added some hem allowance. So that's that. Now I'm just folding in each edge twice for my shoulder strap. This is how the stabilizer looks once all the edges are sewn in. I sewed every edge in once. Now I'm going to pin my shoulder strap onto this back piece and I'm going to sew both of them in place. Then I'm going to attach my strap adjuster and my buckle. I overlock stitched the raw edge first, and then I sewed down this edge to the strap. Now I'm going to finish my other strap as well with the buckle, but first I wanted to sew the stabilizer onto this back piece. And here it is with both my straps finished and the stabilizer added. Now I'm just marking where I need my buttons to go in the front. And again, I'm just following the directions that came on the packet to install these buttons the same exact way I installed the other ones for the button plackets.
I almost took my finger off putting these, and they don't even feel that stable, to be honest. I'm probably gonna have to do them over at some point, but they're stable enough for now. Almost done. All I have to do is hem.
I hemmed the shorts with a double fold hem.
There's too much room for this to fall, which it hasn't because I stabilized it, but it looks a little tiny bit weird.
And that's why my mind would not let me accept it as it was. I went and I had to add something to it to fill in that gap that looks so weird to me. So I just went and I cut a piece that looks similar to this, a triangle piece. I hemmed one edge of it, just like you see here with a single fold. I seam ripped open the top edge of the stabilizer from the back and I tucked that in between those 2 layers. Then I just pinned it into place with that piece behind the strap like this. And here it is, finished.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and just stay tuned for my next video.